this is part one of the voice modulation course. This will consist of three different parts in which I'll try to encapsulate each and every different point and criteria of how exactly do you modulate your voice, in what context do you need it, in what order will you proceed about it, and how exactly would you highlight it, how it can give you an edge over other debaters, over other speakers in a particular round or in some sort of session, right? So firstly, why do we need voice modulation? Voice modulation is a very important asset. Why? Firstly, because it sets you apart from the other speakers or the other debaters or the other presenters. Usually, people get so engrossed in the content that they are about to speak, they usually forget these finer details, such as maybe in a particularly long sentence, you break it up with pauses in such a way that it does not only sound boring, but is also something that is worth listening to, and you also provide focus to the main parts of that sentence, that is focus or highlight the subjects that are needed in that particular sentence, right? Instead of maybe just going over the sentence in one particular tone that no one is listening to you, and the only time they wake up during your speech is when the buzzer rings, right? So you don't want that to happen to you. So that's the first reason why you need voice modulation in your quiver. And secondly, of course, in order to make the idea more appealing, because when the person in front of you looks at you speaking so passionately and enthusiastically about a particular idea, they will similarly start taking an interest in yourself as well. The third reason why you need voice modulation is because each and every speech, especially in Oxford speech, that is the kind of speeches and debates that I am particularly catering this channel to, they really value the idea of story building. And once you give that personal touch of story building into your speech, over there, voice modulation is something that will be crucial. Now, firstly, debunking some myths that exist about voice modulation, right? So we are done with the purposes why exactly voice modulation is necessary, whether it be in peer conversations, whether it be while pitching an idea to someone, or whether it be while making a particular debate speech. It's always essential. And we have already had three purposes. Now, moving on to debunking the myths about it. So I've heard certain speakers in my time who think that all voice modulation has is going as in simply increasing the sound of your voice and shouting at the top of your lungs without any reason at a completely mere little thing, when the subject of their sentence, that is the part which they want to convey, goes completely unnoticed, and all they do is shout at the top of their lungs without any effect on the audience and without any impact, because the audience does not understand what is the part of the content which they want to emphasize on, because they realize that this is something that is not worth considering. This is something that they already knew. So what exactly does the speaker want to put through? That specification is what is conveyed through voice modulation, and they fail to do that. So if suppose there is a sentence that I go to school and I learn a lot of new things and I come home and then I do my homework. So it goes something like this. It's pretty humorous. I go to school and then I come back from school to home and then I do my homework. And that seems extremely dull, right? But people still do it. And that does not make any sense. Moving on to the second type. Ladies and gentlemen, voice or modulation does not require you to completely curve your voice at each and every instance. Voice modulation is the effect. Do you know what is the incentive? The incentive for voice modulation is the reason why you put that sentence over there in the first place. So if suppose I have some sort of motion as to this house would ban the death penalty, right? So I am taking on a very easy sort of motion, and suppose I'm speaking against the motion that okay, so we should suppose I'm speaking for the motion that okay, we should really ban death penalty. And so why? So suppose my first point is that it is never fair in order to correct a particular wrong with another wrong act. And suppose my second point is rehabilitation also exists. So those suppose are my two arguments. So in order to connect these arguments, I also need a bridge. And how will I portray that bridge? I will portray it with voice modulation and my expressions. So it will go something like this. So ladies and gentlemen, we have already established that correcting a wrong act with another wrong act is something that is completely unjustified. So how do we tackle this problem? If we do not complete it with another wrong act, how exactly do we tackle this problem? The only and the main way to do this is to go about by rehabilitation. And you will realize over here how I pause in front of rehabilitation at some points and how I stress in front of certain words in order to communicate my idea even better. I'll give you a better example. Hang on.
One eternity later.
So clearly, I ran into some sort of problem, and of course, my essays aren't opening, and I found it. Okay, so this was part of a pretty popular story that went pretty viral on the net a couple months ago, I think. So this is a story of a particular kid who had nearly a drowning experience. All right. So what he did was he went to the hospital and stuff, and he was brought back and again. But when he drowned, he had a fundamental question that what exactly have I achieved till now in my life, because he was at the brink of death. But when he was brought back from the hospital and he was questioned as to, kid, how are you now, and is everything better? His main question, however, was something else. That in these years of life, what exactly have I achieved till now, right? So he had a particular confusion about it. But a couple days later, his dad solved the dilemma, and there was a pretty beautiful paragraph written about it. And I'll read it out to you in order to tell you exactly how you need to convey a particular emotion, right? So this is how the para goes. In the description, I'll put the para down labeled as para 1, so you can find it over there. When I step on this pedal every other morning, so I read this with voice modulation, with expression, and then I'll tell you exactly what kind of difference it makes. When I step on this pedal every other morning, I see a 55-year-old man with an identity crisis. Okay, so you probably need some sort of introduction. Hang on. So this is a dad who has been driving very recently, like suppose for a week or so, and it's something that is very new to him. And you do not find many old men going out and learning driving in a day or something, right? And it's obviously was scary for him, but he still did it, and he is kind of trying to show his path for victory to his son as well. So that's how it goes. When I step on this pedal every other morning, I see a 55-year-old man with an identity crisis who is desperate to find some sort of meaning in life. But right now, what I see is a learner. I see in my rearview mirror a trail of fear left behind, smeared across the road, burnt in the sun. So today, I don't try to let this drive define me or my life, but rather add meaning to the life I already have. Me stepping on that pedal today signifies neither freedom nor thrill, but having the opportunity to chart the course of my life the way I want it to be, to define the kind of person I want myself and the world to see, so that every action and incident that I do reflects on who I am. And he looked at me. We drove into the night. So that's how the para goes. So this para communicates a lot of emotion, right? So it not only communicates how at the beginning when a person has insecurity, where they are saying that, okay, this is something that I used to do. So my tone is low over there, right? So when I step on this pedal every other morning, I see a 55-year-old man with an identity crisis who is desperate to find some meaning in life. That is some point in life that I'm describing that, okay, this is something that I used to do. This was a dark point in my life. But right now, gradually, when I see the mood of that para elevating, when I see that that particular man has now found hope in his life, he has now seen his fear left behind in the rearview mirror, I gradually start increasing my voice. What I see in my rearview mirror is a trail of fear left behind, smeared across the road, burnt in the sun. So today, and over here, another emotion. I don't try to let this drive define me or my life. So over here, he's first confirming that I am not letting this drive define me or my life. So how exactly do you communicate something when, okay, so this is obviously not happening, or this is something that I am not at all agreeing with. So how do you communicate that? You say something like, so today I don't try to let this drive define me or my life, but rather adds meaning to the life I already have. So I'm putting stress on the word but rather, and then add meaning to the life that I already have. So you're seeing how exactly I'm putting stress on particular words that signify some sort of meaning. That is, I'm putting together the words, I see in my rearview mirror a trail of fear left behind smeared across the road, right? So that is one idea. But instead of it, what else am I doing? What I am doing is allowing this drive to add meaning to my life. So I'm basically clubbing the sentence into three different parts, and at the beginning of which I'm putting stress in order to communicate that particular idea. And depending upon what am I putting stress, depending upon the mood of that idea. But suppose, however, it was something down that okay, so I have kind of failed in it or something, then I wouldn't put stress. Then I would continue in a much lower tone, right? So at the end, me stepping on that pedal today signifies neither freedom nor thrill. Okay, so that part is again clear. I'll give you another example, and I'm already pretty much exceeding my time limit, but I'll still do it. So, suppose I'm speaking for a particular motion, right? And this is my introduction, okay? And I won't tell you the motion, otherwise, it will take away the thrill. So, this is how it goes. So, this is suppose how I start. Ladies and gentlemen, a couple weeks back, my friend was robbed of a pencil. You know, he felt pretty bad. He had been using that pencil for quite some days. It was gifted from a younger brother of his, and he was pretty attached to it. So he felt bad. But what he did was he went home and he told his younger brother about it. So they went together and bought another pencil. A couple days later, after it, my uncle was robbed. And you know why he was robbed? Or what he was robbed of? He was robbed of a promotion. Just because his boss was jealous of him. So he wouldn't give him the promotion. Simply because he did better sales. Unfair, right? Isn't it? You would feel pretty bad too. I would as well. A couple days after it, another uncle of mine, he was also robbed. But this time of money. A robber had broke into his house at the end of the night. Now you might obviously say that Moinak, you have a very unlucky family and very unlucky friends. That is why this is happening to you. And okay, I might agree. But a couple days later, a cousin of mine who works in the army died in the war. And you know, I also thought that what was the difference? Because everyone gets robbed of something at the end, don't they? But what was the difference over here? Is there a store where he can go and buy it back? Is there some sort of boss to whom he can go and complain to return his life? Or is there some sort of reason to which he can justify himself giving his life away? Ladies and gentlemen, life is that one element which cannot be returned, or which is the only element which can be deemed as priceless in this entire universe. It is by far the most important gift that man has received, is receiving, and will receive. So, we are here today to talk about one such a very gift, that is the gift of life, the only gift that shouldn't be messed with, but is repeatedly done so. And you know what the motion to this particular introduction was? This house would prevent wars. And what exactly did I do in this introduction? I escalated a very simple idea. When I lose my favorite pen, suppose, or my favorite marker, I'll feel bad, right? But suppose when when I lose money, something that is much more liquidated, I'll feel even sadder. So I'll go down in my tone. I'll even portray a more melancholy mood through my sentences. And suppose after it I lose something like my house, I lose someone close, I lose something else. But ladies and gentlemen, when I lose my life, will I be able to convey any melancholy? Will I be able to do anything? No, ladies and gentlemen. And that graveness is something that has to be portrayed through your words, your emotions, and your experiences and your expressions. How exactly would you do it? Through voice modulation. This was barely an introduction of it, but I've already exceeded my time. So more of it in the next video, but I hope I was able to give the gist of you in this particular part. Meet you in part 2. Thank you.